La gouvagaï nan men. La mi se pa toune tou bra. Et tout quelqu'un nan men. Pote bel mami m'kapase. Pote bel mami kapase. Pape ki gade kapase.
The last 5 years, we had helped to establish some kind of level of stability because the country was on the verge of civil war. We helped the Haitians organize elections. A legitimate president had been elected, a parliament and mayors. We had provided security because all the gangs that were really controlling the city, we had arrested them. They're building up a national police. And then the economic development also, tourism, job creation, agriculture, export, and all of a sudden, on the 12th of January, in 60 seconds, all that was completely destroyed. My first task was to put the mission back on its feet. It's like in an airplane. If the pressure drops, oxygen masks fall in front of you, and the first thing you have to do is put the masks on you, and then you can help the other ones around you. The government and the United Nations mission here, we were ready to face the hurricane season, the rainy season, social upheavals, unrest, gang activities. But the respondents in such a crisis, like the government, the state, and the United Nations, we were the victims. We were hard hit.
Mr. Moulet was the first one on the ground with a small team, and then a large group of us came down that Sunday.
It's the same kind of team regrouping to work together to help support MINUSTAH right now. And I literally came running down the stairs of the plane, and I started crying. I just hit the tarmac, and the tears were already coming down my face.
We landed in a scene of apocalyptic devastation. It wasn't just physical devastation, it was very much human loss for the population as a whole, but very much for the UN. There were still rescue operations going on, survivors were still being pulled out of rubble. We knew a lot of UN colleagues had died. We didn't know how many. We didn't know how many might still be alive under the rubble.
Elevator was trapping one guy. I remember that guy because we promised him that we're not going to leave, and we were talking to him the entire time. But at one point, they stopped talking. I wish we were able to get everybody out.
Being there in the middle of the rubble and knowing that all those friends and colleagues were there was really, really very difficult. My successor, Haiti Anabi, who was a very dear friend, and he was the special representative, the head of the mission. And the number 2 of the mission, Luis Carlos da Costa, who had been working for the UN for over 40 years. In all the history of the United Nations, we've never had so many deaths in one incident like this.
I think the UN is generally very good at responding to crises, but this crisis we certainly did not imagine. It's so different than any other crisis we've been through because of how hard it directly impacted the United Nations, destroying to rubble our mission headquarters.
Houses, apartments, offices, all that was destroyed. So we came here to this logistics base at the airport, and we've been operating from here, living here and sleeping here on couches, sleeping bags, sleeping in cars. So it's been very difficult.
Bon, comme la plupart des Haïtiens aujourd'hui, nous avons tout perdu, mais nous avons la vie. Maintenant, je vis dans mon quartier et avec une partie de ma famille. La vie continue.
Logistics since the very beginning was a nightmare. The two ports in Port-au-Prince were completely destroyed. There's only one landing strip at the airport. 2 million people need assistance. My main concerns right now are, of course, humanitarian assistance, aid, food distribution, water distribution, shelter for the people. The rainy season starts the end of April, beginning of May, and we have 200,000 people homeless. But also the issues related to security. On the police side, for example, we had this vetting system. We're investigating all the policemen and officers, etc., because some of them were involved in corruptions, and all those records, all that is lost completely. And everything that had been done on the private sector, and also we have to start from zero again. Parliament has no seat or no place to work. All that legislation will take some time. The gang leaders and all the bandits and criminals, more than 6,000 escaped from the National Penitentiary. They're back on the streets. So we have to start all over again. In spite of their losses, the military pillar and the police pillar of the mission were very operational since seconds after the earthquake. They were really active and patrolling and rescuing and doing amazing job. It was incredible to see some of our colleagues that had lost their wives or children, and they were here working every day.
I was totally emotional, but as a military, I have to think not only myself, I have to look for public, I have to think about the security problem in this Haiti.
3 days after the earthquake, the Security Council met, and then they decided to increase our troops, 3,500 additional troops. So I'll have 1,500 new policemen arriving and 2,000 troops.
The military are deeply involved in the international and national effort to rebuild the country. And all of them, my 7,000 soldiers from 17 different nationalities, they are here to support Haiti. Also, we are developing the interoperability that is necessary for all troops around the world to work together in a very effective way.
The UN is now putting in place an international coordination architecture that's really the ideal system that is so often lacking in a big emergency response.
UN peacekeeping missions in general, we are there in different countries for a limited amount of time. Last October 2009, when the Security Council was debating the renewal of the mandate of MINUSTAH in Haiti, they were already thinking about a downsizing of the mission and closing down the mission. And then all of a sudden that changes completely. So now we know that the UN mission will be in Haiti for many years to come.
This population, this group of people have been through so much. I'm actually rendered speechless by how resilient they are and how hopeful they are and how they're able to maintain some sense of dignity in all of this.
The survivors, the victims, they need all kinds of assistance. And for me, it's really a great privilege to be here and be part of that effort where you have a great team of very motivated, very committed, dedicated, inspired people, and working with them for the sole purpose of trying to help people it's a great privilege.
Les Nations Unies a fait un travail formidable pour leur staff et leurs dépendants, et je suis très fier de ce que je fais.
Bel mami, sa kou bagay nan men.